Hello, Penguins fans. Happy Monday. Yes, a little bit of a different setup. I'm back in my house in Richmond, but due to the downstairs being a total mess right now because I am moving in a few days, I have to put my PC upstairs. But for today's episode, we have a very special crossover edition with Jared Ellis of Locked on Hurricanes, as we'll be previewing the first matchup between the Penguins and the Hurricanes. I thought this would be a better episode for you all to hear, regardless, just because the Penguins played like utter crap against the Maple Leafs on Saturday. They looked gassed. They looked bad. They played 3 games in 4 nights. They weren't going to win every game. That was basically almost a scheduled loss for them at that point. So for today's episode, it'll be me and Jared previewing the game against the Carolina Hurricanes on Tuesday night, and you can listen to it right after this drop.
You're Locked On Penguins, your daily podcast on the Pittsburgh Penguins, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey there, Caniacs. I'm your host, Jared Ellis, and you are listening to Locked On Hurricanes on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And as always, thank you for making Locked On Hurricanes and Locked On Penguins your first listen of the day. And today I am joined by Hunter from the Locked On Penguins podcast.
Good to be here, Jared. I think this is probably the first crossover we've done. We were really close last year to doing one in the playoffs. I was getting ready to buy a ticket to go down to Raleigh until Louis Domingue decided to screw some things up with that. But I'm glad we're doing one now. I'm also glad that the two teams are playing in November and not playing all 4 games in February and March and April like they did last season.
Yeah, speaking of that, we already closed our season series against Edmonton and Colorado. It's crazy that, we're just now playing each other for the first time here at the tail end of November, and we're already done with season series for other teams. It's crazy to think about. And, another thing that's crazy, we're both like day one, like Locked On NHL hosts, and we've never done a crossover before.
Yeah, it's weird, because the Penguins and Hurricanes, they've been playing each other in the same division for the last several years now. So you'd think we would do this, at least the one crossover. But no, I'm glad we're doing it now. 2 teams that are in a playoff position. The Metro's a lot more competitive this season. But I figured I would ask you, Jared, just to kick this off. The Hurricanes, they've been struggling a little bit as of late, lost 8 of their last 11, but they've gotten points in 8 of their last 11 games, which is obviously good. What has been the big reason why they've been struggling to win some games during this last stretch, where I also believe they lost 5 in a row compared to in the early parts of the season where they came out playing really well?
Yep. They're able to snap that 5-game losing streak the other night against Calgary, which is obviously really good. But those losing efforts really come down to 2 things, really. Special teams, specifically power play, which has been abysmal. Last I checked, the power play was 30th in the NHL. It was not great. And then not capitalizing on opportunities. They're getting a bunch of high danger chances and just not able to follow through. The goals just weren't coming. And, I'm hesitant to get my hopes up heading into this game against the Penguins and, the rest of the road trip. But it was a step in the right direction. They've been able to get some power play goals here in the last couple games. Last game specifically against Calgary, which was really good because it has been such a bad problem for the team. But it's really getting that confidence back. I also think it's a bit of a mental issue as well of like, our power play sucks. We can't get goals, and they're in their own heads. But hopefully things are going in the right direction for them now. That, like you said, they're able to get points in all of those losses, which is a testament to the resilience of the team, being able to fight back and at least get a point. And then on the flip side of that, some of their issues of not playing the full 60 minutes, of letting other teams come back. That Minnesota game comes to mind there. But now we just look ahead to Pittsburgh and play the full 60 minutes and capitalize on power play opportunities and your high danger chances.
Yeah, Penguins fans, and everyone who listens to my show, we can sympathize with a bad power play because the Penguins power play is ranked, I believe, 27th in the league right now. Just a really bad unit overall.
Mhm.
It's excuse me, it's weird because there's so much talent you can throw on that unit. Three surefire Hall of Famers. Jake Gensel, who's one of the 10 best goal scorers in the league. I would put him up there as top 5 in my opinion. And then you can trot out whoever you want. Ricard Raquel, Brian Rust, though he struggled. They have Jeff Petrie up there right now. So, we can definitely sympathize with that. And my apologies. I think it's 7 of the 11 games because you won 3 and then got the loser point in the other 4. But I have noticed, though, as well for your team, I think the big guns are playing like the big guns. Sveshnikov's been great. Aho's been awesome. Martin Necas has been really good as well. But I think outside of that, it seems like some of those other depth pieces have struggled this season. I was reading today from Adam Gretz of Pittsburgh, who does a great job just looking at the week ahead for the Penguins. And I actually did not know that the quartet of Seth Jarvis, Teuvo Teravainen, Paul Stastny, and Jesperi Kotkaniemi only have 6 total goals this season. I just did not expect to see that at all, especially from someone like Teravainen, who I think is one of the more consistent players. And you signed Paul Stastny for very cheap over the summer. You're paying Kotkaniemi a lot of term with a decent AAV. What has been missing in their games this year that's just having them not produce right now?
Yeah, so Teuvo, he's out hurt right now.
Yes, right.
And he's not a goal scorer. He's definitely a pass first kind of guy. But he's got just won't come in for him. Seth Jarvis, with him, he's definitely carrying the load there for the goals. But with him, he definitely hit a bit of a early season wall of just struggling to get things going. And I forget which game. I forget if it was the Calgary game or the game before. He was finally able to get back on the board, which is great for him. Stastny, I don't know what is going on there. I really don't. It was one of the earlier games. He had 1 goal, but it ended up getting called back. And Jesperi, he got his first of the season in the last game. So he's one that he's been knocking on the door a lot this season, but it just hasn't opened up for him yet. I really hope that the door is going to open for him this season. I feel he has been one that's not necessarily struggled, but is still fitting into his new role as that second line center, taking over from Vincent Trocheck and just getting used to that role. The more responsibility, more ice time. And I feel he's just trying to get used to that. And Brent Burns was the same way earlier in the season. He started to get things going a bit in terms of offense. He's still struggling a bit defensively and making some mistakes there. But I think that just comes with being in a new system after being in the other one for over a decade. So, I think Jarvis, he's just hitting a bit of a wall. He just needs that 1 goal, to start getting some confidence back. Kotkaniemi, he's there now. Stastny, your guess is as good as mine.
Yeah, and my apologies for the Teravainen thing. I knew that he had been hurt. I was just wondering if he was still out because I don't think he was on IR last time.
No, he was not. With him, Brendan Moore said this morning after practice that he is traveling with the team on this road trip. Whether or not he plays in that game against Pittsburgh, that is going to be up to Teuvo. If he's ready to go, he'll play. If he's not, they're going to be rolling with the group that they've been rolling with.
Yeah, that, makes a ton of sense. And, you look at the rest of the Hurricanes lineup. I mean, it's, 4 very deep lines. Obviously, old friend Jordan Staal still centering the third line. I think every Penguin fan out there, most of them, I would say, have fond memories of him. And it's hard to believe it's been about 10 years since the trade happened. So that time just flew by. But, defensively, Jared, that's, I think, where the Hurricanes also, make their name. Obviously, they're great with shot attempts, scoring chances, high danger chances, and they can score at will. But defensively, they have some very good players. And it all starts with Jacob Slavin. I think he's one of the 10 best defensemen in the league. He can do it all. And then, he's also playing with Brent Burns, who, I was kind of surprised that they got him over the offseason just because I didn't know who was going to trade for his contract. Brady Shea, Brett Pesce, Calvin DeHaan, and then Jalen Chatfield. What have you seen from Brent Burns thus far? Just overall, has he really been turning it around a little bit after a couple of down years in San Jose? Has playing on a winning team helped him a bunch? And overall, just what are your thoughts on the defensive group this season?
Yeah, so as a whole, the defensive group, I do like it. They have been, making some mistakes, Burns especially, just some bad decisions, some lapses. But like I said, he played in San Jose for over a decade. I think it was 11, 12 years he played out there. So, he is going to take some time to get used to a new system. And, I think has started to put things together offensively, between goals and assists, really starting to rack them up, which is great. And I think with him, he's paired with arguably the best defensive defenseman in the NHL. So he can do his thing. Brent Burns is an offensive defenseman. He can do his thing, because Jacob Slavin is so good at what he does. With Burns, I do think he definitely brings a level of grit and intensity to the defense. I really like that. I just, think it's going to take a little bit of time for him to, reel in some of those mistakes and lapses in his game, to where, we're at mid-season. He's putting things together a bit more. Brady Shea, Brett Pesce, that's always a great pairing. Like, between that and like the third line, those never get changed, barring an injury or something like that. With the fourth pairing, cycling between Calvin DeHaan, Jalen Chatfield, and Dylan Coghlan. There, Chatfield, he was a guy that a lot of folks were like, all right, is he gonna make the jump from the AHL to the NHL? He looked really, really good in his little stint here last season when we had a bunch of guys out with COVID. He played so well, he earned himself a 2-year extension. And, going into training camp and preseason, very much like Seth Jarvis last year, he just forced Brendan Moore and Gleason and all the coaching staff to be like, well, he's just playing so good, we can't send him back. And he stuck around, and he's the guy that hasn't gotten cycled out of the lineup. It's been it's been Calvin DeHaan and Dylan Coghlan. Those are the guys that are swapping in and out. And it was looking even more crowded earlier in the offseason when Ethan Bear was still here, when we were still unsure of whether or not Jake Gardner was going to be playing this season. And Chatfield, he has been stellar, and he has been really underrated this season. And he's a guy that is flying under the radar, and definitely one you're going to have to watch out for.
Yeah, I'm excited to, watch him, at least for that game, just because I don't think I've really watched a lot of his games over his career. And then, finally, Penguins will probably not be seeing Frederik Andersen in that game. I think they saw Antti Raanta in all 4 games last season, so they know him quite well. Or they will be seeing the amazing goaltender nicknamed Coochie, of course.
Yep.
That's just, I will always love you guys for coming up with that nickname for just can you pronounce his last name for me, Jared, so I do not butcher that on my show?
I still struggle to pronounce it sometimes. Pyotr Kochetkov.
Okay, perfect. I was probably going to bungle that because I've never pronounced that on my show before, and I did not need to be a meme in my YouTube comments or just in my DMs and stuff. But I'm just going to call him Coochie because that is his nickname. So the Penguins will be seeing one of those 2 goaltenders. Just to wrap up this part of the show, Jared, how have both of them been playing this season, and which one would you expect to start?
They've both been playing really, really well. Antti Raanta is coming off a bit of an injury, nothing major, just kind of tweaked something in morning skate a couple games ago. And, I think they can't go wrong, either one. I think Pyotr, he's been lights out, every game, even the games they've lost. He's been the one guy you can look to like, all right, he pulled his weight. It was all the other guys that were just passengers on the bus and, not doing anything at all. He's going to be a goalie you really got to you really got to watch out for because he is stellar. Like you said, he makes highlight reel saves. He isn't afraid to drop the gloves as well, as we've seen before, this season, as well as last season in the playoffs when we were squaring up with Brad Marchand, ready to fight him, and he's definitely a guy that can carry this team for a long time. As far as who we see tomorrow, it's going to be a bit of a toss-up. In the last game against Calgary, we saw, I believe, Antti Ranta in that game. So I feel like it wouldn't surprise me if we saw Ranta again because Piotr did go on such a long stretch of playing, and Rod doesn't like guys sitting for too long. So it's going to be 50-50, honestly. I don't think you can go wrong either way. I think, honestly, Piotr may be the go-to for that game because he has been so hot lately, and just ride the hot set of hands.
Yeah, I mean, either way, I think the Penguins they'll have their hands full just going up against one of those two goaltenders just because they've been playing really well this season. Coming up in the next segment, we're going to flip it. So Jared is going to ask me about everything regarding the Penguins this season, and there's just been a lot. We could probably spend 3 hours talking about this team overall. But before we get to that, did you know that over the holidays, property crimes like burglaries and package theft spike nationally? That's why our friends at Simply Safe Home Security are offering 50% off their award-winning security system so that more families can feel safe and secure this holiday season. You can order your Simply Safe system for 50% off today and enjoy advanced security and greater peace of mind this holiday season. In an emergency, 24/7 professional monitoring agents that use fast protect technology exclusively from Simply Safe to capture critical evidence and verify the threat is real so you can get priority police response. It was also named the best home security system of 2022 by U.S. News and World Report. That is a third year in a row that has happened. With the top-rated Simply Safe app, you can also stay in complete control of your system anytime, anywhere. You can arm or disarm it, unlock it for a guest, access your cameras for your home, or adjust system settings. Do not miss your chance to save big on the only security system that I recommend. You can get 50% off any new Simply Safe system at simplysafe.com/LockedOnNHL. This is their biggest discount of the year, so do not wait. That's simplysafe.com/LockedOnNHL. There's no safe like Simply Safe.
All right, folks, we're back, and we talked about the Hurricanes power play struggling as much as it has. The Penguins are in the same boat. They're both 26 and 27 in the league in terms of power play percentage. Hurricanes are at 26 at 16.9. Penguins are literally right on their heels at 27 at 16.7%. We talked about what has been the problem for the Hurricanes in terms of the power play. Flip the script. What's causing the Penguins to struggle so much on the power play?
Yeah, I think overall the first unit is just total garbage right now. They get in the zone, and even when they do, it's cleared right back down. And then when they go and get it, they're coming up the ice. They do this stupid drop pass, which I hate. They don't need to go backwards to go forwards. The zone entries are horrendous right now. And even when they do get in the zone, they overpass. They sometimes get a chance, and then it's just going right back down the other way. It's just that constant cycle. Mike Sullivan removes it after 55 seconds to a minute. Second unit comes on, and usually that unit actually looks better than the unit that has three surefire Hall of Famers on it. I don't really know what they're doing in practice to just struggle this bad. I mean, I'm moving to Pittsburgh in a few days, so I would love to go out there to Cranberry sometimes and just, jot down some notes and look to see what they're practicing and such, because it looks like they do not practice it at all. It almost just seems like they're out of ideas. They can change the configuration as much as they want, but until they start, getting the zone entries down and moving the puck around crisply and getting more than one chance each time you enter the zone, you're just going to see the same old crap. And, your power play is bad when late in the game against the Flyers, after the fourth line was playing really well, they had 3 of the Penguins' 4 goals on Friday night. They get a late power play. Mike Sullivan's like, all right, I'm going to put you guys out there. We're not going to be doing the Freerson unit out here to try and up the score. He just wanted to kill the clock. And, I think the first unit should be, I shouldn't say ashamed, but they should feel a little like, wow, I think that's a code for us to wake up. The second unit has been much better with getting chances. That unit usually consists of Jason Zucker, Danton Heinen, Jeff Petrie before he got moved up to the top unit. Jeff Carter, I think, is on there at times. So they just need to be more consistent, and they need to stop trying to pass the puck into the net and just, work the puck around the big guns. Letang needs to keep shooting more from the point. They need to get more traffic from the net. And, they get back to doing what they were doing last season, the year before that, this power play should be better. This power play should be fine, because they probably would have won a few more games at this point in the season, even though they're in the playoff spot right now. They would probably have a few more wins if the power play wanted to just wake up every now and then.
That sounds really familiar. And yeah, really not surprised that it's a lot of the same issues, that's plaguing both of us, especially the overpassing, because that has been something I've criticized the Hurricanes on pretty much ever since I started this show. The power play has always been an issue for the Hurricanes. Now, so it's going to be very interesting to see these two not so great power play units go against each other tomorrow. But one thing that the Penguins do have going for them is their penalty kill. It's ranked 9th in the NHL right now at 81.4%. Hurricanes is improving steadily right now as of this recording, ranked at 15th at 79.5%. It was much farther down earlier in the season where it was, again, struggling as well. Now, what has been the success to the penalty killing? We talked about the bad. Let's talk about the good.
Yeah, I mean, the penalty kill, it didn't start out good, to say the least. It was close to dead last in the league. They were giving up basically a goal per game the first few weeks of the season. And then it started to turn around a little bit. The goaltending was improving. I think this latest stretch, they're getting, I believe it's like 940, 942 save percentage on the PK from both Jari and DeSmith. That obviously plays a big role. But, even before then, it was starting to turn around because they were getting more aggressive coming up to the puck carriers. They weren't just sitting back like they were and just being way too passive. And when you also couple that with Teddy Bluger then returning after a lengthy absence, this unit is 17 for 17 since Bluger returned on November 15th, 2 weeks ago. That is huge. He is great at blocking shots. He is great at getting his stick in passing lanes, and he honestly, that unit will go as far as he will take them, I think is the way to say it. And it's been a huge catalyst for this turnaround. You can get by with kind of a meh power play and a good penalty kill, but you can't win games if both of your special teams units are really bad. And that's why I kept saying on my show, I'm like, if they can really turn that unit around and get better goaltending on it, that can really just get games going in the other direction for the Penguins, so they're not making all these losing plays when they're down a man. Sure enough, that ended up happening, and you saw them rattle off 5 straight wins, and they won 7 out of 9 before laying an egg against the Leafs on Saturday. I think that was mainly due to them being tired. They played 3 games in 4 nights. I don't think they have another back-to-back for the next several weeks at this point. But yeah, that unit has been great lately, and it needs to continue, especially if the power play is going to continue to stink.
Yeah, it's very much in the same boat as the Hurricanes. For a stretch there, the PK was abysmal as well. These teams are in similar-ish positions. The Hurricanes have been able to rattle off some points, even in some overtime losses to keep them solidified in a playoff spot. The Penguins were able to get in that second wild card spot the other day, after kind of being on the outside looking in there for a little bit. But we're talking about how big of a special teams are going to play a role in this game. But one thing I think that is also going to play a role is how good these teams are in the faceoffs, because we got 2 top 10 teams in the NHL and faceoff win percentage right now. Penguins are at number 10 at 52.2%. The Hurricanes are at number 4 at 53.1%. And they're so evenly matched. Hurricanes with the slight edge of being able to gain that edge. While some people may not think of it as super, super important, but when your power plays are struggling as bad as these teams are, every little bit helps. Especially the Hurricanes are trying to get that losing streak off their back, get a winning streak started. Penguins, they're starting to get the ball rolling a bit. I feel that that's going to be something that plays a factor in this game. And, your old friend Jordan Stahl is phenomenal in the face-off circle. So how big of a role do you think, gaining that small edge is going to play in this game?
I think it could, definitely a little bit. I mean, some people always say that face-offs don't matter, and
Yeah.
I understand what they're saying, but at
Mhm.
times, they really do. And for as much as I've bagged on Jeff Carter this season, he's actually been one of their best face-off centers this year, and I think that's
Mhm.
why he's continuing to have that third line center spot. Evgeny Malkin's been taking some face-off opportunities away from Sidney Crosby, especially on the power play. That's a new wrinkle that we really haven't seen Mike Sullivan do before, but I do think it can play a little bit of a role, especially again going up against Stahl. He's usually one of the best in the league. Aho is usually up there as well, so I'll be curious to see how Crosby does against him. I would have to think Malkin has the edge over Kotkaniemi just because he's been really good on faceoffs this year. But I think overall, again, is it going to play a bit of a factor? Yes, but I think for me, it's the Penguins, making sure they're not feeling deflated, not going to lay another egg like they did on Saturday. It's obvious that they kind of have a little bit of a problem with the second half of back-to-backs. They've been awful in them this season. I believe Josh Yohe wrote the article the other day, and they were like 1-4-1 on the second half of back-to-backs. The only win coming against lowly Chicago, a place they hadn't won in since 2009. So I think it's just them not being fatigued, them not be feeling deflated, and just making sure they get to their game, which, at times against Carolina, they had some trouble with that last season, but they also did play decently well at PPG Paints Arena against Carolina State. I think they split the two games there, and one of them was very tight, and then the other one the Penguins were able to win. I believe the score was 3-1. That was late in the season, so those were some fun games, and I'm excited to see how this one plays out as well.
Yeah. So one last thing for you is something I've talked about for a while now is, in terms of, the Hurricanes, getting their organization together, to put it politely, and, going from, a laughing stock to a really good team. And it seemed like there's a bit of a changing of the guard, whereas, it used to be like the Penguins and Capitals. They ran the Metro, and, the Capitals are falling off. They're currently sitting at 6th in the Metro right now. And I keep saying it every year, Penguins and Capitals, they're gonna fall off. But the Capitals but the Penguins are sticking around. And they're falling down, and they're not as dominant as they were, say, 10 years ago. But what is really helping the Penguins stay in the mix so much, even when they are an older team?
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the biggest reasons, at least for me, if not the biggest reason, is the core. Evgeny Malkin and Sidney Crosby have been lights out. This season, Crosby is, I believe, top in the league in 5-on-5 points this season. He's top 10 to top 15 overall in points. He is playing at a ridiculous level once again, and that should not be a surprise. He's one season away from tying Wayne Gretzky's record of 19 straight point per game seasons. I think Sid is going to hit that this season. Malkin was fully healthy coming into the season. It has shown he has been awesome as well. Jason Zucker also playing great. He is finally showing why the Penguins acquired him just a few years ago, and why he deserves to make that $5.5 million this year. He's almost at a point per game pace. Jake Ensel is playing at a high level. It's been those top two lines that's really carried the load for the Penguins this year, and just the leadership group that the Penguins core has. There's just a belief in them that they can always win on any given night, and the Penguins will go as far as that core will take them. Mike Sullivan, even when the team was on that 7-game losing streak, I was like, he's going to find a way to get them out of this. And sure enough, that's what a great coach does. They won 5 in a row, 7 out of 9 before dropping the game against the Maple Leafs. He's one of the 5 best coaches in hockey, and I think that's showing yet again this season. And also, the health. There was a crazy stat yesterday. The Penguins have been fully healthy for the last 6 to 7 games, knock on wood. That's the most amount of games they've been fully healthy for dating back for the last decade. Like a fully actually healthy lineup. That just goes to show how the injury luck for them has always been bad. And the fact that they've been relatively healthy for most of the season, now fully healthy, that goes a long way as well, because they can finally iced a lineup that, they wanted to have over the offseason. They couldn't even do it last season, for God's sakes. It was just so bad. But, those are the main reasons why I think the team is just, still in contention, even though it's a bit of an older group. The core players are, making their money's worth. I think if Chris Letang is able to really start turning his season around, that's only going to make the Penguins a bit more scary to go up against. But, at least for me, those are the main reasons why I think this team should never be counted out, at least, with many media pundits and stuff.
Yeah. And yeah, it's just crazy to think of just how they're able to stick around so much. But we'll get into our predictions for this game tomorrow, right after this. Folks, betonline.net is your number one source for your sports betting infos, news, and analysis. Get the latest odds and trends for every professional and amateur league out there, from football to basketball to soccer and esports. They've got it all at betonline.net. And if you love sports podcasts, you can find all those at betonline as well. The World Cup is going on right now, so make sure you're going over to betonline to get your betting fix, because they are the fastest and easiest way to get that betting fix. So head to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more. Bet online, where the game starts. Now, Hunter, this is the first matchup for these two teams this season. And, we're going to see more of each other, as the season goes along. Of course, still relatively early in the year. Folks are still trying to get their feet under them, especially here with the Hurricanes. We've got a lot of guys out. Pacioretty still hasn't played. Kasha hasn't played since the first game of the season. Anderson's out. Tavo's out. It's going to be a different team, by the next time we play each other, because someone is going to be back in the lineup, hopefully, at least. But what are you predicting to see in this game, whether it be a win, a loss, or guys that have good games, guys that have disappointing games? What are you expecting to see in this game?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's going to be a really tight game. These two teams played 4 really good games against each other last season that were very tight throughout, and it was getting me honestly amped for a playoff series. I think after every one, I was like, man, it'd be great if these two teams could play in the playoffs again, because they haven't played it in the playoffs since 2009, and I think all Penguins fans know how that went with it all. But
yes, we do.
Yeah, long time ago. There's in terms of Penguin players that were on that team, there's only 3 now that are still on the team now, and that's for obvious reasons. It was 13 years ago. But I think the Penguins, they just got to get back to forechecking hard, getting their chances. They are top 10 in most metrics league-wide: shot attempts 4 per 60, scoring chances, high danger chances, expected goals. They're going to have, their time in the offensive zone, but also to flip that, Carolina's also going to have their time in the offensive zone. Their underlying numbers are very good per usual. They gave the Penguins defenseman fits last season. I think that in the last game that the Penguins beat the Hurricanes in, I think it was a 3-1 game, Carolina was playing on a back-to-back, and you wouldn't know it based off how the Penguins were playing, but the Penguins were able to finish off their chances while the Hurricanes were not. And I think Tristan Jarry also made a lot of really good saves in that one. So, you don't want to repeat that kind of recipe to beat this Hurricanes team. You kind of want to, give them a taste of their own medicine, which is, how good they are for checking and going from low to high and getting to the high danger areas. The Penguins also just, again, they got to do that, and they also got to keep defending well, because before that Leafs game, they were doing a really good job of keeping the opposition away from the net mouth, which has been a problem for them over the last few years. So I think that is also a big key for me. And I think, considering that Tristan Jarry is going to start in this game, or at least I believe he will, I don't think they're going to go to Casey DeSmith. Jarry's been starting to turn it around a little bit for his last few starts. Before that, just wasn't having a good season after his first few starts. But if he can keep it up and continue to make saves, that's going to be, it's going to really up the Penguins' chances of winning. As for like a prediction for me, so I've actually picked them to win 2 times in a row, so I'm feeling good about it. I think it's going to be a close 3-2 Penguins win. This is a 5-game homestand. They just played 13 of 19 on the road to open the season. Just ridiculous amount of road games to open, and they just lost their first game on the 5-game homestand. You can't afford to have a bad homestand here, especially as they fought their way back into the playoff picture after that 7-game losing streak. So either the Penguins will bounce back, they'll win this one, and then they'll have to focus on Vegas and St. Louis and a couple other teams that are going to come to PPG Paints Arena soon.
Yeah, with this game, I think that the Hurricanes are really going to have their ducks in a row. I know we don't have JD from Locked On Ducks here, but still had to uh, get that metaphor in. But I think that the Hurricanes, they finally got their power play starting to go. That's going to be key in this game, and they need to. While they have had those high danger chances, one thing I've been critical of them in the past is they feel like they're just taking so many shots and they're just shooting to shoot, not shooting to score. And I think, that's going to be really important here because, like you said, Jari, he's starting to get things going. And if he's going to be the guy that you're going against, you need to be, picking those shots well, capitalizing on those high danger chances, and tidying up those defensive lapses. Because you're going against a key team that, they might be older, but there's still a team that can take advantage of those. It's not a team, like, no disrespect, but like Arizona, even though we just got shut out by Arizona, which I don't know why we're using that one, but let's go with it. A team that, you could make a mistake like that and get away with it. Pittsburgh, they're not a team like that. They're gonna make you pay for stuff, and I think that the Hurricanes, Brent Burns, especially playing there on that first defensive pairing, he's a guy that's made some noticeable mistakes this year. He's gonna have to have his stuff in line, and ready to go. And the skaters as a whole, forwards and defensemen, an issue as of late, especially in that 5-game losing streak, was leaving the goalie out to dry. Whether it was Piotr, whether it was Ranta, the goalie can only do but so much, and they can only make so many highlight reel saves. The skaters have to do their job as well, and they don't need to leave their goalies out to dry like they have been as of late. As far as a prediction for the game, I feel like overtime would be a safe bet for this game because of obviously the Hurricanes' recent history, but the way these two teams play each other. I agree with you. I think it's going to be close. I think a 3-2, 2-1 game is very likely. I'm kind of hesitant to pick the Hurricanes to win. I'm going to obviously, but with the Hurricanes' recent history, like I said at the beginning of the episode, I'm a little hesitant to start, putting my eggs in their basket because of what they've shown as of late. I really want to see them, all right, they got that last win. Let's see them get this one against Pittsburgh. Let's see them, get the win after that against St. Louis, against LA. Let's see them get back to their winning ways, and then I'll really start feeling more confident in them. Again, they're still a really good team. They're not bad by any means, but they've been struggling to get things going. I'm going to say 2-1 overtime Hurricanes win.
Okay, I mean that would almost be par for the course, because these two teams they play so tight against each other, and the Penguins would get a point out of that, but still, considering they need to keep banking points to keep up with teams in the Metro, that wouldn't be the best result that they would need. But yeah, I mean, again, Jared, I'm so excited to watch these two teams. I've always kind of, how do I want to say this? I've always just liked watching them play, just because they play a fun brand of hockey, and to see them going up against the Penguins, who I think also play a fun brand of hockey, that should make for a pretty good matchup. And so I'm really excited to get this one underway.
I am too. I think it's going to be a really, really fun game, and with Metro teams playing each other, I say it all the time. Every time, we play a team in the Metro teams always seem to play each other a little bit harder than they do other teams, whether it's the top team in the division going against the bottom team or what it may be. They always seem to play each other a bit harder, so it's going to be an extremely entertaining game to watch. But Hunter, thanks for taking the time to chat about this game. Again, crazy the fact that it took this long to do a crossover, but we did it. And in the meantime, where can everyone find you on social media?
Yeah, you can follow the show on Twitter at LO_Penguins. You can follow me on Twitter at Hunter Hodes. And then the show is wherever you get your podcasts, Apple, Spotify, YouTube, all those places will do. Other places I'm sure are out there that get my show as well.
And for you Penguins fans, you can find me on Twitter at Jared Ellis _96. You can find the show on Twitter and Instagram at LO_Hurricanes. And you can find the podcast wherever you are listening to this podcast. And thank you for making Locked On Penguins and Locked On Hurricanes your first listen of this Monday afternoon. And now that you've made us your first listen of the afternoon, please make Locked On Sports Today your second listen of the afternoon. Locked On Sports Today has the biggest stories of the day, plus instant reactions, big game recaps, and the take of the day. It is available on the Odyssey app, YouTube, and wherever you get your podcasts. You guys have a great rest of your Monday, and we will talk to you in the next episodes.